What up, Vegas Nation? How you guys doing? Adam Hill from the Las Vegas Review Journal here to answer any questions you guys might have as we head into draft month. It is here. We've been talking about the draft for a long time, and now we are counting down the days, getting closer and closer to the time that the NFL draft kicks off, and a lot of questions are answered that we've been discussing for a long time here in terms of exactly where the Raiders might go, where some of the other teams in the division might go, how some of these teams may shop. We'll get into the Raiders in just a second and what they might do, and as we get closer, learning more and more of maybe the direction that they may be headed in. Don't forget, you can send your questions now. You can send them in throughout the week as well, up on Twitter, through FanZone, uh, anywhere that you connect with us. Usually, you can throw in your questions there, and we can get them answered for you each and every Tuesday. Either myself, Vinny Bonsignor, Sam Gordon, Ed Graney, Heidi Fang, whoever's on here answering your questions each week. You can send them in, and drop them in live here on this YouTube stream, or just hit us up whenever with any questions that you may have. So, I want to get into first of all the trade yesterday in the NFL. It not only impacted the draft, but also potentially impacts the AFC West. So, Sam Darnold goes to the Carolina Panthers. Not a first round pick involved there, but three picks, one this year, and then two next year for Sam Darnold. So quite a price that they paid to get him out of New York. He goes to Carolina, and really what that does is opens up the possibility that Teddy Bridgewater is available. A lot of rumors linking him to Denver here in the AFC West, which would kind of change their outlook a little bit, maybe not only heading into the draft coming up, but also heading into the season. If Denver was able to get Teddy Bridgewater, does that mean they keep Drew Lock around and try to help him develop, or does that mean that they give up on Drew Lock and go quarterback in the first round of the draft? A lot of questions there in Denver, and I know people have their eye on that around the division because there is a thought that if either Drew Lock develops or another quarterback comes in and plays well, then Denver could be a real factor in the division race. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on going into the next couple of weeks and what exactly unfolds with those Denver Broncos and the potential that they do get Teddy Bridgewater or, as we said, draft another quarterback coming up once the NFL draft starts again, April 29th for that first round. So, like I said, something to monitor there for sure. Also got a lot of developments, other ones in this draft. And looking there, Chris Rodriguez comment RN4L, so Raider Nation for life. There, if you have any questions, as I said, drop them in to this YouTube stream. So, of course, want to get into the Raiders and what they plan to do in the draft coming up. Uh, Took a look around some of the mocks that are out there and who some of the mock draft kind of experts are sending the Raiders' way. And you can read that story up at the Review Journal. Check out just kind of the sampling of the top mock drafters around and who they have. And no surprise, a lot of right tackle. A lot of mock drafts think the Raiders go right tackle. I personally think they go right tackle. It's not a big mystery. This is a hole that is left on the team right now. There's a couple glaring spots. If you look at the Raiders roster, where do they need somebody to start? Where do they have holes to plug in? Right tackle and free safety are really the key spots right now. That doesn't mean they have to go that direction in the draft. I know some experts still think they go with an edge defender, somebody that can get to the quarterback, even though they signed Yannick Ngakoue, even though they added a couple more pieces along the defensive line. Uh, that's still a possibility. I mean, this defense that they're going to employ with Gus Bradley is so dependent on the ability of the front four to get to the quarterback that the more guys that you have that can do that, the better. So it is possible that they still go in that direction. That edge defender is still on the radar. Um, there is a couple of intriguing possibilities there in the first rounds of guys that could fall. You know, a guy like Jalen Phillips from Miami is somebody who has some, I don't want to call them red flags, we'll say yellow flags in terms of, injury history. And, there was a time where he didn't think he was going to be able to play football anymore. He's incredibly talented, maybe the most talented of the edge rushers in the entire draft. If he falls to 17, all of a sudden the Raiders could be looking at a guy that could have been a potential top 5 pick. Very, very talented player. There's some concerns. Maybe his career will last very long, but do you go in that direction? Just because you think you can add a dynamic playmaker like that on the defensive side? Maybe. I wouldn't rule that out at all. I wouldn't rule out secondary at all. If they think they can get one of the elite corners and continue to build up their stockpile of talented young players in the secondary, that's a possibility. I still think linebacker is possible, even though I thought that was the most likely until Nick Morrow was re-signed. It's possible they go in that direction as well, but there is a lot of right tackle and free safety speculation. I still think they find a veteran somewhere to put in that free safety mix, just because that that role in this defense, much like we talked about with getting pressure from the front four, the free safety is such an important role in this defense in terms of kind of being on your own as the last line of defense, because the other side, the role that's expected to be played by Jonathan Abram is more of a box safety, a guy that's going to be closer to the line of scrimmage. A lot of thought that can help him and his development, and just saying, hey, go play close to the line of scrimmage, go get the ball, don't have as many coverage responsibilities deep. That could help Jonathan Abram, but that means you have to have a really, really reliable guy on the other side. So I think they'd be more comfortable with a veteran. Doesn't mean that it has to be a veteran. They could address that in the draft, either the first or second round, even maybe later on to add depth back there. But I think they want to have a veteran there at least to start things off this season. But if Trayvon Morgan is there from TCU, he's a legit first round talent at safety. And safety isn't a position that's often addressed in the first round by teams, but you have those special rare players that sometimes are, and Trayvon Morgan may be one of those guys. That's possible, but like I said, I think they address that in still through the market. There's still going to be guys released. There's still going to be guys on the trade block. There's still going to be plenty of guys available here as we continue to go through this very weird off season with the reduced cap. So I think it's very possible they address that through other means than the draft, which leaves again um, that right tackle spot to be addressed. Now you got guys. You would think Penei Sewell will be gone. I think if he falls to the Bengals at 5, I think that they would just go ahead and grab him. I think, as I wrote in my last mock draft, they may run to the podium to grab a guy like Penei Sewell if he's available in that spot. I guess they could possibly go and get Joe Burrow, his former teammate in college, Jamar Chase. Maybe that's possible too. But I think the Bengals won't let Penei Sewell go by. He'll go off the board then, and then I would imagine a guy like Rashawn Slater, who has pretty much established himself as that number 2 tackle in this draft. There's a big chunk of players that could be considered for that second best tackle spot, but I think Rashawn Slater has started to separate himself a little bit, and I would imagine that he's gone as well. If he falls to the Raiders somehow, I think that would be an easy pick for them to make. But then you've got that next group, and that seems to be where most of the so-called experts have the Raiders kind of looking for their pick with that 17th pick in the first round. If they stay there, of course, they can move around and make trades, and I think that that's something they'll explore for sure. But you've got guys like Elijah Vera Tucker. That is somebody that I would absolutely have my eye on if I was a Raiders fan and if I was the Raiders front office to be taking in that spot for multiple reasons. First of all, definite first round talent, very, very talented player who I think has the potential to step in and be a starter day one in the NFL. But perhaps even more importantly for this Raiders team and how they're trying to build their offensive line, it was clear that the mandate this offseason was to get much, much younger on the offensive line, and let's face it, cheaper. That was the big the big driving force behind that. I think this offseason was with the salary cap where it is. You've invested a lot in the offensive line. It hasn't really worked in terms of paying off from playoff appearances. So get younger there and get cheaper there. And so that's what they've tried to do. But what Elijah Vera Tucker would do is he's a guy who's played guard and tackle. I think he projects more as a tackle in the NFL, but can certainly play guard if you need him to. And so that versatility, I think, would be huge as the Raiders try to build this offensive line and try to, really build from the inside out on offense and defense. We saw them address the defensive line. Now they're trying to get younger and more talented on the offensive line, and uh, that would make some sense to get a guy that could play multiple positions at this level and really, build that way. So I would definitely be looking at Elijah Vera Tucker if he falls as a potential player for the Raiders to select. Christian Darrisaw, another guy I think definitely should be on your radar as a Raiders fan. Darrisaw showed up the most in the mock drafts that I reviewed and wrote about for the RJ this week. If you go look through that story, you can see what some of the national pundits are saying about that pick, about what Christian Darrisaw would bring for this team. Tevin Jenkins, another name to maybe keep an eye on there, a guy who is kind of rising up the boards a little bit and could be a factor for the Raiders. But another guy there to look at that could potentially be in that spot. But the Raiders could really surprise everyone. It doesn't mean just because they have a first round pick and they have some holes to fill, doesn't mean you have to go there. There's other spots you can address. There's other players you can pick, and as I said, I think trade is definitely going to be on the table. The Raiders have shown the last couple of years under Gruden and in particular Mayock that they're definitely willing to move both up and down to find the guy that they want to select. Kind of, you would look maybe moving down in the first round, maybe up second and third round. A lot of ability with some of the picks that they have to move around. We usually see them look to try to acquire extra picks and then use those picks to move up in those middle rounds and try to grab the guys that they think are going to help. I would imagine that they would go offensive line more than once in this draft. I think they would try to address it later on as well and try to build the depth there. I do expect definitely secondary guys to be selected. Maybe a wide receiver, a developmental type player at wide receiver. Uh, a lot of positions that they can still address because like we said, they're trying to get younger and cheaper and try to build that way. And then next year, when the cap goes up, you have some of that spending power to invest. But certainly clear what the Raiders and a lot of teams are doing right now with the cap situation where it's at. But a lot to examine as we get closer to the draft. Make sure you check out a lot of the stuff that we're going to have going on. Myself and Heidi Fang are going to be doing videos every week to try to examine some of the potential players, even in the middle rounds, that the Raiders could be selecting. Vinny Bonsignor has material every day about what's going on with the Raiders offseason. Ed Grady with the columns as well. Sam Gordon has been doing some great stuff to check out for sure. Um, and all that available through the Review Journal and Vegas Nation. Make sure you check out that app. And some big things coming up as well. Don't want to give away too much, but definitely stay focused on us on socials, and we'll let you know some of the big things we have coming up, including a whole section on the Raiders' potential draft moves and what's going on there, and a look ahead next year. Don't forget that draft will be in Vegas. So Cleveland is a place to have your eyes on here for the draft this year as we start to get back some normalcy. Last year was all virtual. This year will be kind of that mix of virtual and live. And then next year, everybody hopes that when the draft comes back to Las Vegas, the draft we missed out on last year, we can have an extravaganza at the draft next year on the Strip in Las Vegas. I think everybody's looking forward to that a lot as well. But that will do it for us, for everybody back in the studio, for you guys with your questions up on, don't forget, Twitter, all through all the socials, through Facebook, through the fan zone at reviewjournal.com. check out all those spots. Make sure you send in questions throughout the week. The more questions you have, the better these will be, and the more interactive we can be with you guys and know what you want to know about, and then address those questions for you. But that'll do it for today. For the Fan Zone, I am Adam Hill, and for everybody here at the Review Journal and our Vegas Nation coverage team, we thank you guys, and we'll talk to you again real soon.